the best career transition I've had ever. I love this industry so much.
You're feeling empowered of, oh, this work matters because these leaders are calling out the purpose and what your work is doing.
I guess I just really started living the movement.
So you got someone who's wicked smart, lots of energy, lots of positivity. Those are the things you can hire for in the attributes category. You can't train that.
Things, when they're left alone, they will become more chaotic over time unless energy is put back into them. It's why we're going to outlast things.
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at ServiStarConsulting.com.
Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. And man, we've got something really exciting for us, really exciting for current leaders. But before we even get to that, Albrecht, I want you to first tell me if I'm saying this right. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Luminaries. Am I saying that right?
A lot of vowels in there. Luminaries.
I feel like a magician, illuminate. So tell me, around this time of year, luminaries, why are they a big deal in the credit union movement?
Well, you've got to illuminate spaces. And so what does it look like to be the light of the movement, to be a movement evangelist, if you will? So the Credit Union Times, they got their eyes out there for these evangelists that are going out and spreading the good word. And the Luminaries Award honors those evangelists, those industry pioneers, if you will, the next ed filing. And so credit unions and world-class servicing organizations that are part of the credit union experience are eligible to submit names of people that are changing the cooperative financial services industry. That's kind of what's the impact to our industry for the better. There has to be some kind of move towards positive progress and change. And so this award that CU Times created and gives out every year spotlights those individuals, those teams, those projects, or those organizations that have significantly enhanced the not-for-profit financial movement. And so our friend, our guest of one of the credit unions that owns ServiStar, Ann Ditlow from Forefront, was on the list of 35 nominated Luminary Award potential recipients. And so we wanted to get her on the cast because I had the pleasure of training her a year ago in person and virtual through a leadership training series we did. So super excited to have her on the cast to talk about this great recognition and what she specifically has been doing in this great industry to move the movement forward.
Yeah, man. So listeners, current and aspiring leaders, listen to her story. She talks about a lot of things, but she talks about how she fell into the credit union movement and why it was important. And then something else she talks about is this idea of, I love this, drifting towards entropy if leadership doesn't counter this. And it's work. It takes energy. So listen to this, see where you connect and how you use this. And it's fascinating because the stuff she learned in Vertex, Albrecht, that must have been a big moment for you. She's saying, man, I needed this right then last year. And she's saying, I'm literally using it this month, skills from other modules that you taught. I feel like that's a huge compliment to the things you train.
That's a huge compliment to her as the learner. I'll take the compliment. I mean, yeah. I think I'm pretty awesome, So it's great to solidify that fact. But let's mention the fact that Luminary Awards are usually given to organizations. She was specifically mentioned as an individual, and so she's a specific learner who chose to take what we trained and apply it. I think anyone can be the Ann Ditlow in our classes. I don't think it has to do with the trainer, because there was 23 other people who aren't on this list. And so it really is what you do with the training. And that's why I'm so proud of her. And I'm so happy that we can honor her in this way.
Man, I'll end it off with that, is that, hey, it takes energy. You can't just go to the class. You got to do it. So, hey, let's roll that tape and listen to what she has to say.
And welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. We're going to zoom in on the Luminaries-recognized leaders from our great industry. And today we are honored. We are blessed to be in the presence of Ann Ditlow.
Ann Ditlow, welcome.
Ann Ditlow from Forefront Credit Union. Forefront owns ServiStar. So we got to do a good job today, Ann. We got to be on top of it.
Watching you. No.
Congratulations
technically, you're our boss, I guess. Yeah.
That's it. You own us. Yeah, that's it. Congratulations on your award. I know MCUL was shouting you out Credit Union Times was shouting you out. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity for us to move the movement forward. And you were doing some things at Forefront that got you some press that we got to get you on the podcast for. Plus, you and I got to hang out last summer. And so we'll talk a little bit about development of leadership. We'll talk a little bit about the Luminaries Award. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll talk about drifting. I'm super excited to give you guys some deliverables on today's Credit Union Leadership Podcast. Andley, what do we have in store on today's agenda?
Well, and this is my first time meeting you. So actually I have a few questions for me selfishly, but also for our listeners. So I hear you're at Forefront Credit Union in Michigan. Before we even get into the Luminaries, tell us about what do you do at Forefront?
So my job here, I am the finance and analytics manager at Forefront Credit Union. And that is a really fancy term for, first I work with our traditional finance department. I'm doing ALM, interest rate risk, liquidity forecasting, budgeting, all of the number stuff that people's eyes glaze over when, the boring part of the credit union space, right? And then on the flip side, I'm also responsible for our data warehouse and implementing our data strategy here. And my team of analysts also, anytime anybody has a question about the data or they need a report built, it's my team that typically builds it. So cool. Numbers in their various different forms.
So what I'm hearing is you're a storyteller. You take these numbers and you tell us what's going on with the company and what should happen.
Absolutely. It's all about facilitating better decisions.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you start at Forefront? Was it in this position? Was it something else?
It's a bit of a story. And just said I'm a storyteller. So let me tell you a story. Please. I did not start in the credit union movement like so many other people. As Andy Kempf says, I also dumb lucked into it. I started not even in finance and not even in data analytics. Wow. I started in biology.
Okay.
I was a molecular lab technician. I was working on gene expression screening studies for a small biotech startup in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And yeah,
not what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, it gets better. So I started there, and my degree is in biomedical sciences from Western Michigan University. And I had all kinds of aspirations to be in certain end career paths, like a doctor, a pathologist, a dentist, a this, a that. I felt like it changed almost every week. But it all kind of revolved around that sort of data and information and decisions and helping people. So that theme was there from the beginning. But in the first few years there, I was literally like at the bench. Like I have a picture actually I can share with you guys later. On the bench, pipetting, treating little skin cultures with different chemicals, and then telling those companies that paid for these studies what their ingredients were doing to the skin at like a molecular level. Like we put water or ingredients on something, and then we see what genes are turned on and off and by how much. And then we say, hey, like we think that your materials or your products are hydrating the skin, and here's why. So that was super cool stuff that I was doing. But unfortunately for me, and I'm sure you're about to figure this out about me, I talk too much. Molecular biology is very quiet, and it's very focused, and you have very strange hours of the day. It doesn't pay very well. And then if you ascend the ranks in that career, it all ends up being a desk job anyway. And so I tried sales for that company.
Okay.
That just, if I didn't feel like doing it all night, I could sell it to other companies. But then that resulted in traveling to New York City 4 times a year. Love New York City, but that was too much.
Yeah. Way
too much. And all of my clients were on either coast, and it was very, very profit-driven, very rigid. And it kind of felt, for lack of a better term, it felt icky. I just didn't feel great about myself at the end of the day because I felt like I really couldn't be myself. I was more driven about like with genetics and gene expression screening research, I was more driven about its applications to help people and its applications kind of in the healthcare industry. And it really didn't jive well with my aspirations and really who I was as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I left. And then naturally you think that this is where I find credit unions and it's happily ever after, but no.
Okay.
Then I got into software development at third-party benefit administrators.
Wow.
Which is
Okay.
real boring. It is just as boring as it sounds. I worked as a business analyst there, and my job was to describe software requirements and describe what our pieces of software, our processes, our systems, our solutions had to do in order to achieve a certain outcome. So I had to take all of these initiatives, all of these kind of ill-defined trajectories, goals, and then boil them all down into, as a software developer, here is how you should code this specific thing. And that was a really cool career path. I really enjoyed it. But again, at the end of the day, there were some behaviors modeled in that industry, and there were some behaviors in that company. It was like during an acquisition, and it was really not a friendly one. It was, again, not really reflective of who I was as a person. And it still didn't feel like I was applying the skills that I had to analyze data, to inform better decisions, to make better products, to benefit humanity in some way.
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't being used for a greater purpose. I decided to leave then. It was around COVID at the time, so we're into about 2020. And
Yeah.
at that point, my master's degree program, my MBA at Western Michigan University that I was studying for at the time, that whole entire program went remote.
Okay.
My husband and I decided around that time, we're like, kind of want a kid. I have a kid now, she's awesome. But want to have a baby. We want to be near family, and family for us, he has a significant number of members of his family up here in northern Michigan. Both of our jobs were fully remote at that time. So we kind of looked at each other like, why are we still hanging out in Kalamazoo when everything we want is up close to Traverse City?
Okay.
Let's just go. So we did. We bought a house. I survived the 2021 housing market in Traverse City. I am a survivor. Barely.
So to pause real quick, Albrecht, all this stuff that Ann is sharing, how surprised are you, or how much does this validate who you know Ann to be?
Oh, yeah. She is a systems thinker who talks a lot. So this actually makes so much sense. And as a fellow Western Michigan University grad, yeah, I'm loving all of it. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the journey that led her to the credit union industry. This is great.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Yes, go Broncos. So buying the house, moving to Traverse City, and then slowly realizing over that time that my career at that point still wasn't aligning with who I was as a person and still feeling icky at the end of the day. I just started looking around, as you do, like what's available up here now that I'm in a different environment, a different space in the world. And around that time, there was this very ominously titled analyst role at Forefront. And here I am thinking like, oh, I know data so well. Like I can write SQL, I can build reports, I can do all of these things. And I walk in and this is a full on like financial analyst interview. I'm over here like, I don't know what side of the balance sheet the loans belong on. Like you need to help me here. Like, why are the loans on the asset side? This is crazy. Like, please help me. I've seen a balance sheet before. It balances when the number here equals the number here, but it's all flip-flopped. This is like your cash is over here. It should be up here. What's going on with this thing? And he was my future supervisor at that point. He did end up hiring me. We don't know why, but
Yeah. That's a great question to ask in an interview. Why is this on the wrong side? And you're like,
like, why does this work this way? And it was actually like a skills test too. Like I came in there and he asked, based on this information, he handed me like a balance sheet and income statement and like a couple of different narratives. What branch should we close? And I'm over here. I'm like, well, I can sort of piece together the balance sheet and income statement side because I was studying my MBA at the time and I had a few accounting and finance classes. I just kind of had to trick my brain into thinking it was all backwards. But there was enough statistical and demographic information that I was able to make a pretty convincing argument about which branch you close based on just demographic trajectories in that region where that branch was. And I just like put it all on the line there. And I figured there's no way I'm getting this job. Like I did not know what I was signing up for. I didn't know what I was getting into. And he told me at the end of the interview that I was going to get an offer on Monday. Okay, cool. And then I came back from this job interview. I called my husband. Like, I just interviewed for a job that I didn't really fully understand what it was. I was told that I got it. And also, I wasn't really looking for a job in the first place. I was just feeling it out. And I ended up taking it. I had a conversation with Shelly DeYoung. She's our former chief operations officer, and she passed away last year. Really sad, wonderful woman. But I had a conversation with her, and she was explaining like the benefits package to me. We're very generous with our 401k. I made her repeat the percentage match to me like 3 times. I'm like, it's what again? Like, I didn't, what? Yeah. And of course, I did the analysis on, oh, well, if I just take this job, I'm going to be better off anyway. I'm going to have better hours. I'm going to get out of my house and not have a fully remote role anymore. I just have to figure out finance. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll do it. So I did it. I took it. And that was 4 years ago. And it's been the best career transition I've had ever. I love this industry so much. It is absolutely incredible. Just the opportunities and it's one of the first spaces where I've been able to see leaders actually walk their talk, and actually I can see through data and information, and then through just conversations with people like in my community, I can see how the decisions that I am helping to facilitate here with information, how that filters down to a community of over 100,000 members and greatly enhances their access to capital, to purchase homes, to purchase cars, to get, to pay off debt, to do all of these things. And it's so, so cool. And then every leader that I have been exposed to in this industry that's been in it long term has, they're just genuine, real, authentic people. They take and they embrace the human side of leadership, and they take you in who you are, like exactly as you are, and say, this is why you do this. Come help me do it. And it's the coolest thing. It is just, I love it. And I fell into it pretty hard. I fell in love with the industry pretty deeply when I was involved in Fuel Michigan, which is a young professionals networking group that's run by the Michigan Credit Union League. And I'm finishing up my 2nd year in that program right now. And that is really when I first was exposed to the greater credit union ecosystem soup that we're all in, and realized just how special credit unions were as an industry and as a group of professionals. Throughout that time, so I started in Fuel as a analyst, but then at the same time, the number of requests, the amount of financial analyses needed, the complexity of the work in the department that I was in just kind of continued to build. And it became pretty apparent after a while that there needed to be a manager. And the role was posted. I went for it. I had just finished up my MBA at that point. I was young, dumb, stupid. I wanted to go for it. And I ended up getting the role. And that was about maybe 2 to 3 weeks before I met Scott.
Okay. So, all right, before we even get there, but this is really interesting. Something I want to connect for the listeners is you're working on the data and pulling out the story of helping people with their putting material on their body. Then you go from that and you're talking about software of what would we need to change or do to make material work. But there was a void from both of those jobs. And I guess to say simply is there's this lack of purpose that you're saying is, hey, if I'm doing this, I want to know that it's making more impact than just helping someone get more numbers or more income or more sales. Yeah. And when you came here, not knowing, just analysts, I got this, you're seeing impact internally because you had specifically said leaders that walk the talk, or they say, hey, come do this with me. And you're feeling empowered of, oh, this work matters because these leaders are calling out the purpose and what your work is doing.
Yes.
And then you're literally seeing the difference by making these decisions that help people afford life, buy houses, pay off debt. You're speaking my language. And that is when it sounds like you start getting sold like, this is where I want to be. I'm using the skills I used in previous jobs. Yeah. Oh, very different industries, but still using gathering information, generating insight, and implementing change. But now you're doing it with work that has purpose, which Albrecht, that reminds me of one of the top stats we always talk about, which is the top attributes of credit union workers. Can you refresh our leaders on these attributes and what you're seeing from Ann?
Yeah, so someone who's wicked smart is one of the first things that you should hire is smart people. So if you don't know finance and you don't know what side of the balance sheet is credits and debits, that's okay because you're smart. The highly positive, if you haven't heard it yet, she's smiling ear to ear and high energy. And so she got kicked out of biology because she talked too much. What I heard her say. So you got someone who's wicked smart, lots of energy, lots of positivity. Those are the things you can hire for in the attributes category. You can't train that. So if you're hiring leaders in the credit union industry, our research with Filene Research Institute indicates that those are the things that you might want to go for. Also, numeric ability with your background in software development. I'm guessing you're pretty good with numbers. So that poor branch, though. I mean, it was just an interview. I didn't know they were going to actually shut it down right then and there. So,
Yeah. It also reminds me of another attribute from that stay with Filene. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of the top attributes among credit union employees is they find meaning, relevance when they can provide a value to somebody else. And that's what I'm hearing in your story that reflects the ideal credit union player being hungry, humble, smart. But hey, I want to make sure that my work is providing a value to somebody else.
Yes, absolutely. And those things that you just mentioned was what I was missing in the employee benefits space, what it was missing in the biotechnology space. It felt like my day-to-day or my purpose in those roles was to ensure that somebody had a vacation home. And it wasn't really filling my cup, so to speak. It was getting my bills paid. I was subsisting, but I wasn't thriving. And life is way too short to just exist. I mean, I only have one shot to do this right, and I might as well really be enjoying what I'm doing and actually making an impact in people's lives. Like, why not?
So then fast forward, y'all need a leader, and you say, hey, let me give it a go. And it sounds like they say, all right, you'll be a leader. Also, let's put you and some of your team through a leadership development. So cue Scott Albrecht with ServiStar Consulting. So this is fascinating to me. It sounds like this came at the perfect time for you. What was your experience in leadership before the credit union?
I had always led indirectly. I had never had direct reports until 2 weeks before I met Scott Albrecht.
All right.
Yeah.
Man,
So
so
he got
Scott,
me right at the beginning.
this is like the ideal scenario for you, Albrecht. You're like, all right, brand new leader, like title wise, we're teaching the skills to make sure you start this off really, really well. So Albrecht, when you go in there, how big is the group? Do you remember meeting Ann? Is there so many people in there? What did that look like?
Hard not to remember meeting Ann. When Ann took her foundational voice, she shared with the entire room that, she can show up and shut the conversation down, and she can show up and be like the energy in the bottle, the lightning. And I always remember that I promised her a pair of shoes, and she said, but I want these kind of shoes. And I didn't actually get her the shoes that she wanted. So forever, she's got shoes, but they're not the rainbow colored
Oh,
umbrella
you're
man
wearing them.
shoes that
Oh, the Umbrella Man, but not the rainbow.
she wanted the
Oh, okay.
rainbow one. So we got to work with Mr. Taylor on getting the OG rainbows back with Ed Filene's face all over them. But yeah, I mean, if Ann's in the room, really hard to forget having that participant in the room. Room was about 24 from 9 different credit unions, and it was so cool. It was a hybrid training, some of it in person, some of it remote, live online from this exact studio. She's probably having a little bit of PTSD right now. I mean, like, oh, I remember that studio. But yeah, it was a great experience because she added value. She challenged different things, and that's a really good conversation to learn from, is when you point out, well, what about this? What about that? And so I always like engaged learners who keep the conversation flowing versus the silence.
A pioneer guardian is what I'm guessing. I don't know if I'm right. Am I right?
Pioneer.
I pioneer. Okay.
Pioneer. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
Man, really, really good stuff. I want to come back to this, but we're going to take a quick break and listen to an ad from our sponsors to see what's going on.
Credit unions typically provide about 2 weeks of training to a new teller. But how much training is provided to the new manager? ServiStar's Emerging Leaders program addresses this gap. The average manager in America gets their first management training 11 years after becoming a manager. It's time to deepen your bench. It's time to take a look at those rising stars in your credit union and identify what is the future of your credit union going to look like. Introducing ServiStar's Emerging Leaders Workshop. For sessions like leadership hacks, building trust, coaching, effective mentorships, and change management, send your emerging leaders to our Emerging Leaders class today. How are they going to build trust? How are they going to establish themselves as leaders? How are they going to have people they manage who were peers a day ago now respect their relationship as a leader on that team? ServiStar's Emerging Leaders program takes new and emerging leaders and turns them into confident, competent, high-performing leaders who are able to develop their own personal leadership style, deploy core coaching skills, and maximize employee engagement and performance. We look forward to seeing your leaders and emerging deepening bench at the Emerging Leaders Workshops here at ServiStar Consulting.
All right, let's get back to it.
All right, so before we talk about, all right, so it sounds like ServiStar, that training was virtual, but you're engaged, you're learning, you got shoes out of it. Before we go there, let's first just celebrate nominee and the Luminaries. That's pretty cool. And what I want to ask is, all right, let's talk about the significance of this for you, like finding out what this means. What do you think that you've done that's gotten you this, would it be right to say this recognition? But the first thing I want to ask is, how did you find out? How did you find out?
I found out actually through your CEO. I found out indirectly through Taylor.
Wow. Okay. We're
Taylor
really
Murray,
apart.
Yeah. I had no idea that I was nominated. No clue. I'm just going about my day, doing my business. And I noticed on our company intranet, where we just have an internal webpage where we have company announcements. And Andy posts something every Friday morning. So go read what's Andy saying. And he shouted me out that I was nominated for this. I'm like, hold up, what? How does he know? This makes
That's hilarious.
No sense.
So no one like called you or said, hey, we're about to release this, share the article. You just find out from your CEO. That's right. Who heard from our CEO.
Yeah. Yep. Because then
Oh.
I go and I read through my emails in the morning, and there's Taylor Murray. Hey, congratulations. I saw you were nominated. And he copied Andy, he copied Kelly, who's our chief culture officer. And we're here, and my team's hyping me up. And I'm going, I didn't know. I don't know what's going on.
That's the best kind of surprise. Am I getting punked? Yeah.
It was great. And it was just a wonderful surprise on a random Friday. And I did later learn that it was released on CU Times, I think the day before, but I was busy or something. I don't know. And no, they didn't reach out to me directly. And exactly how I found out, Taylor tipped everybody off, and people were congratulating me before I knew.
That's such a cool way to find out. So
Yeah.
the question I have is, what do you think got you on their radar? Like, what did maybe like, hey, what's some work that you've done? What's some outcomes or maybe impact? Talking about
Sure.
what we've been talking about. What do you think? Like, if you were going to tell someone who's aspiring to be a leader and make a change in our movement, what do you think got you recognized for this?
I think it's a combination of a few things. And first, you guys have been mentioning it throughout our discussion. I am loud and I am hard to ignore. So just the squeaky wheel getting the grease, that probably has a greater than 0% chance to do with it. But there were some beyond just being habitually annoying and loud. I started, for lack of a better term, I guess I just really started living the movement. I went and absolutely, and I went
Wearing the shoes every day. Yeah.
I wear the shoes so often. I'm wearing them right now. I wear them to every conference. They're my conference shoes. I always pack them. I bring them. I clean them because they're white. There's a reason I wanted the rainbow ones, and it's not just because I love rainbow. They're easy to keep somewhat dirty, but the white will do.
Yeah, make sure you put the mustard on the yellow part and the grape juice on the purple. Yeah, that would have worked really well. Yeah. And
when I started at the Michigan Credit Union League's Fuel Networking program, I just started from the bottom. Just, I want to get to know everybody, and I want to see if I can find experiences, find groups of people to get involved with, if I can find people to help me do my own day job better, and find a group of people that I can learn with and grow with. That was like square one. Here's where I'm starting. And that was a few years ago. And it built from there. Now that I know what credit unions are all about, now that I know what they are trying to do in the industry and trying to do for humanity, what are some things that I can do, and what are the opportunities around me that align with that mission going forward? So I did things like I started volunteering with Junior Achievement. Financial literacy is a huge component of credit unions, and the credit union movement is something that we are really jazzed about. It happens to be something that I can teach. I did learn finance, I'm pretty good at it now.
You've made it through the other side. Okay.
I made it to the other side. I know what side the loans belong on the balance sheet. We're doing great. And I was able to take those learnings and that experience that I've had and go teach fifth graders about the economy, about banks, about pick something. And I was able to follow this curriculum and then offer them a real world example of a financial professional in their community and what that looks like. Super cool. So I started doing things like that. I started just volunteering more in my community in general. I'm always involved in planning See You Kind Day for my team. We're going to be doing yard work in a couple weeks this year for it's called Grace Episcopal Church, and they have like a homeless outreach program called Jubilee House. And every single year for the past few years, we go and clean up all their grounds and just walk in the talk and bettering ourselves and our community members. I don't even know if they bank with us, frankly, but we've been doing it every year, and we're always there, and it makes it a little bit better. And just having my team go and do those things.
Yeah.
And then through Fuel, I learned about credit union advocacy because there's a huge component. Like we have a huge set of rules and a very, frankly, complicated way to influence those rules, and decisions made in our federal and state and local governments can significantly impact, for better or for worse, the way that we operate and the way that we service, the way that we help our members. So
Yeah.
that is critically important to our ability to function and our ability to get financial products and services and loans and cars and houses and what have you into the hands of people in our community. So if there's one thing that I'm good at, it's being loud and annoying and obnoxious. So
Take that and make it a little YouTube short. If there's one thing I'm good at. No, it's fascinating. It's very like, all right. So one of the things that you fell in love with the credit union movement was the leaders walk the talk.
Yes.
Now you're saying, all right, hey, what do I believe I've done that's given me this recognition that I want to share with others? And I'm hearing you say you are now walking the talk, not just at Forefront Credit Union, but you're a part of the bigger movement with Fuel, the young professionals group, but you're also walking the talk beyond just the credit union, beyond just the movement as a whole. You're also doing it in your community of helping people as well, which is really fascinating. So with this, what I want to do is I want to now connect this recognition with the skills that you've built. So going back to what we talked about where, hey, you apply for this job, you get it, and 2 weeks later they say, hey, we want you to take this thing called Vertex, and there's this guy who's going to be on a computer screen named Scott. What I'm curious, before we even talk about like takeaways and stuff, when you first met Scott, what was your reaction? What was the first impression? And to how much you know Scott now, how much of that is an accurate perception? How much of that has changed?
My first perception of Scott was actually a bit of bewilderment because I could not comprehend how large someone's shoes could actually be.
Wait, so you saw him in person?
Yeah, that was the first time I saw him, was in person. I'm like, this is a very tall man with very long shoes.
Yes.
They had to have been custom made.
Shoes is a big deal to you. All right, credit union shoes. First thing you know is about Albrecht, his shoes. Okay.
She's a bio major. Yeah, she's trying to figure out what genetic lottery I won to get size 16 shoes. So, yeah, I mean, makes sense.
She's like, wait, you've been putting that water with this ingredient and the side effect is larger. Okay. I see. All right. So you meet Albrecht, you're bewildered. Wow, large feet. And are you saying large feet I can learn from someone like this? Or are you like, oh, no, this is a red flag?
No, it wasn't like a red flag or anything. It was just like absurdly large.
Yes,
like I couldn't. I'm sorry, Scott.
No, just keep going. Albrecht or Ryan, let's get a snapshot of Albrecht's foot right here and just post it on the video.
But then, as you were talking, it was very clear that I was going to pick up something. I was going to learn something, because you guys had that connection to the mission that I'm always looking for. It really meshed well with, again, how I saw myself as a person and my goals, both personally and professionally. I want to be authentic. I want to be aware of systems. I want to build trust in my team. I want to live authentically, and I want to be in tune with my values, and then use that and that confidence in myself in order to inspire other people to follow said mission. So like, hey, I might learn something here. But yeah, first thing I noticed was shoes. Second was like, I'm going to learn something. So you did very well.
Oh, thank you. And
so
it was my pleasure. And I got to get darker shoes. Those are red shoes. They kind of stuck out. So that's
red,
a little personal takeaway.
Wow,
maybe rainbow shoes for me.
So Albrecht, doing this training for you, what was the biggest moment of the training, just group wide, that you felt like, wow, we really had a great conversation, or this really landed?
I mean, I most remember Ann. I do apologize to Kat and everybody else who was there, but I do remember the transparency that Ann was allowed to share in those breakouts. So, hey, one takeaway, one question, and she would always have something for us all to kind of noodle on. And one of the things that I complimented Ann on that day was, thank you. There's so much more I have to say about this, but I don't remember to say it until somebody like you asked that kind of a question. So she always just had really good things that would be like, oh yeah. That reminds me of this whole thing that I completely forgot to tell you guys. So
Yeah.
together, we could have been there we could still be training that content if you allowed us to continue to play that brainstorming, kind of pontificating on what could be a scenario out. So I'm so happy we got her on the podcast. Listeners,
Yeah.
this might be a 5 hour. I don't know. We might never end. It might be the never, lifelong blog 24/7. Let's go.
Eventually, guys.
So,
Like,
and it sounds like something that for us as trainers, it's life-giving is when people are really applying this or saying, how can I apply this? Oh, here's a story I have. And oh, this is what I could do differently next time. My question for you is, as you're going through Vertex, which seems to be at the perfect time, what was the biggest takeaway, the biggest moment out of all of the modules in Vertex? There's how you coach individuals to their maximum potential. There's, as you're moving up, you can't take all the important or urgent tasks. You need to delegate some to new people on your team. And also, you're a brand new leader. You're creating a brand new team. There's team building. There's holding employees accountability. It sounds like something you maybe really connect with as well might be leadership, leading with purpose, or strategic thinking. How can I do this on a daily basis? What was the big thing that stuck out to you that maybe it's a practical thing, maybe it's just a mindset, maybe it's like a habit? What's the biggest thing that you got out of that?
there's so many. And as you're going through that entire list, I keep thinking of all of the different lessons in each of those different categories that I learned. And I'm gonna have a really hard time narrowing it down to just one, maybe two, if you'll let me.
I will. Yeah.
But
Keep it
okay.
going.
And maybe I'll do one that was really useful in the beginning and then one that is really useful now.
Oh, okay. So what I'm hearing
Okay.
you say is there are skills you could play right away,
Yes.
but there's also skills that, man, it was so good for you to take this because later on
Yes.
it's showing up. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep going.
So let's start with just immediately. So right during that training, that series of both virtual and then the in-person session, there is a unit in there about managing peers. And that was incredibly relevant right at that time because I was just in the midst of having to redefine relationships with my now 3 direct reports because all 3 of them were my peers a month ago.
Oh, wow. And you went from leading 0 to leading 3. Okay.
Yes. Leading 0 to leading 3, all 3 were my peers. And one of them had been in the organization for about 7 or 8 years at that point too. And I was the only one that didn't have a finance degree and all of these other things. Yeah. And so it was very difficult at first to be able to kind of take a step back from those relationships and then really observe my behaviors and try to, okay, I have to change everything here. Well, I mean, not everything, but I have to change and be very aware of the dynamics between myself and my direct reports now. I have to hold myself at a higher level, and I also have to ensure that I'm treating everyone fairly and holding everyone to the same standard. Holding everyone to the same standard of accountability, respect, performance. And it was difficult because I was closer with another one of my direct reports when we were just peers. I was closer to one of them than I was to the others. So I had to take a step back, and I had this really great relationship with one of them. Maybe not so much the other 2, but I'm going to have to sit down with that one direct report and say, I know that this is how we functioned in the past, but it's changed now. I'm going to have to let go of that prior rapport and hold myself to a different standard so I can allow the group of us to thrive instead of just showing favoritism to one person versus the other two. And it sucks when it hits personally like that because it is it was a friendship. It is a friendship.
Yeah.
We're friends. But
Yeah.
it had to be friends within a different context.
Man, there's two great things we teach from that course that sounds like you really put into action. So, Albrecht, one of the things you talk about is the truth's undefeated. Like you've got to acknowledge, hey, I'm a leader now, and our relationship's going to have to change. And what we specifically teach is sit down with your former peers and talk about this change and what you're expecting. And man, that's you're getting my heart's beating faster. Like you're talking about, you literally did it. And because of that, it's helping your team have a healthier, you're building more trust. You're not having that dysfunction of distrust because you're willing to embrace a little bit of discomfort to say, hey, things are going to change now and our relationship might as well. And then also, I think the third one, which you're hinting at, is this idea of contextual friends, where friendships might look different depending on different phases of life or work and personal, which we dive more into that in our leadership training as well. Man, that's fascinating. So tell us, what's one that's been more relevant now, a year later after the training, as you're a Luminary-recognized leader?
Thank you. There is a unit in there about managing through change. And we have experienced significant amounts of change at Forefront through some separations with our executive leaders. Like Shelley DeYoung passed away. You can't count on that. And we had a change in our CLO and our CFO, and all of this happened within a very short time frame. And there was also some turnover in my own department where one of my direct reports actually went to go work with one of those former executives. And there was all of this change and turmoil, and no one's really communicating really well across the organization. All of these things were happening all at once. And I found myself having to manage my own emotions during the change, even though I was feeling like I was on shaky ground. I'm onboarding a brand new chief financial officer. I'm onboarding 2 brand new analysts beneath me. I've got 2 other direct reports that are relying on me because I am one of the only constant source, just constants throughout.
So wait, not only were you losing a direct report, your team was also growing. So you moved from having 3 to 4 direct reports?
Yeah, we're going to have 4 soon, is my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah, team is growing. And just the change was just constant.
Yeah.
There were structural changes, just different reporting relationships, different tools. I reported directly to Andy for a while, and I found myself having to do different responsibilities. Like I was writing the board updates for finance, like as a whole function for a hot minute there. So I was getting challenged with new things at this point, trying to keep my cool and really trying to anchor through those lessons that I learned through managing through change. Like, wow, I need to walk that talk. I need to be able to find that reason for change down the road. I need to be able to manage my emotions and manage my reactions to change and treat it as an opportunity to do things better, to learn from it, and to inspire my team. Like, hey, change is constant. Don't apologize for it. And be the model for them to follow to make it through that change successfully. That was something that I really was valuable in these last few months.
Yeah, and it sounded like it was a big deal hearing all that, but yeah, the stuff you're talking about reminds me, Albrecht, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like the 5 different reactions to change. And I believe there's a strong power in definition. And it sounded like, Ann, you were able to say, oh, this is which one I fall under, but this is where I need to be for my team. right now. And then that is strong. And also the quote you're saying, don't apologize for change. You can't control the weather. You can't control the change as well.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
such a powerful thing. I want to transition because we are nearing the end of our time. But one of the things we asked you, hey, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to help leaders with? And you said this, and I told you before we even started, it caught my attention because it's one of my favorite bands, Switchfoot. They use this word in a lot of their songs,
Yeah.
entropy. And you said, every system's drift towards entropy. Leaders counter that through cooperation. And
Yes.
so the question I want to ask is, how did you develop this principle, this mindset, and dive deeper into that? What was the story that helped you think, all right, how are we drifting towards empathy? Like it's very poetic, drifting, entropy, or countering it, cooperate. Like there's a lot of stuff to unpack there. How would you unpack this in like an elevator pitch of 5 minutes? How would you do that?
Ooh, elevator pitch of 5 minutes for
Shark Tank.
Let's go. Okay. So I would first start by how I started thinking in this way. I'm a huge proponent of something called first principles. And without going into that whole, it's philosophy. So we're going to do philosophy, we're going to get into physics, and we're going to start getting up through organizational change in 5 minutes. So here we go.
Let's go. All right, masterclass.
So philosophy, systems thinking, and first principles. You break big concepts down into their most fundamental truths. And a fundamental truth that I believe, and it's something that is true from molecular biology through physics, all the way through people and organizations of people, is that things, when they're left alone, they will become more chaotic over time unless energy is put back into them.
Oh.
Same thing with, I'll take something that I know and love, biology and cells. It takes more energy, like physical, like food, sunlight, whatever, energy, to take an organism from a single cell bacteria to a multicellular large organism, a tree, a person, an elephant. One takes incredibly more organization and energy to create that organization to overcome that chaos, because otherwise it's just a collection of proteins and protons, cells and atoms and what have you. But when it works together, when it cooperates together, it becomes something bigger than itself. So it's true in physics, it's true in biology, it's true in people, it's true in groups of people. So when you have a group of people and they're all left alone, and you're not putting energy into it to facilitate them working together, they are not going to become something greater than the sum of its parts. There might be infighting. There might be, some people might behave in selfish manners. There might be, the outcome that those group of people aren't going to be as great as it could be if each of those components takes energy, puts it into it, cooperates together, and then creates something bigger than themselves. And I take that metaphor with just a group of people in leadership and apply it to even just credit unions and the movement as a whole. And I wholeheartedly believe if there's anything that credit unions are good at doing, it's surviving. You could have a nuclear apocalypse and credit union leaders will be scattering out like cockroaches, like making loans to your grandma and like setting up your cousin with a checking account. Like it doesn't, like they will find a way somehow. And it's because they have this ability to work together to counteract entropy, to counteract chaos, get all of those resources together and moving in a direction forward and becoming greater than the sum of its parts. So, and I think just me throwing that out there, I think that it is a more advanced model of financial services. It's why we're going to outlast banks.
Whoa.
So I don't know if that was 5 minutes. Was that 5 minutes?
I don't know, but what a fascinating way to explain that. Wow. I'm just in
These are my
awe for a
shower
second.
thoughts. That's what I
Yeah.
think about.
Gosh, that's intense. Albrecht, what thoughts, what questions do you have to close us off here? How do you follow that up?
Yeah. So if I'm catching your drift,
Yes. Uh-huh.
there's a leadership system that is applied pressure to chaos that actually produces a good response.
Yes.
You've been exposed to a part of that system through what we offer, but there's probably more offerings and more ways to apply pressure, even from internal needs. Like you've got a bunch of change that's happening today
Mhm.
that was more relevant than it was 2 years ago. And
Yes.
so as you go through your journey, I think continuing to apply the nitrogen to the tree and water
Is that is
is
this
something that
science?
we should keep
Is
a
it
mindful
checking out?
intentionality to, right? We can't just let the tree go. It's gonna have fungal issues, and the ants are gonna get in there, then eat the fungus away, and then it eventually will fall on your roof, and then you'll have to have an insurance, claim, and then you'll have to go to a credit union to get a personal loan out. Is that what I'm hearing you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you.
Wow. Well, and thank you so much for being on. Hearing your story is fascinating. I think people can connect with it of hearing, maybe I wasn't part of the credit union industry, but how can I still apply my gifts, passions, and skills in the credit union industry is one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing I heard today that I hope a lot of people get out is this idea of finding value in your work. What are you giving to others? And then, man, I feel like we could talk for like an hour or two just on this idea of systems drift towards entropy and this idea of cooperation takes energy. There's a lot to unpack there. Energy is a lot of work. The leaders,
Yes.
that's hard.
Yes.
Man, gosh, there's just so much going on right now. But for the sake of time, guys, thank y'all so much for being here. And thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on. I really appreciate seeing you guys. Thank you.
Wow, that was really cool. Man, you weren't joking when you said she's a talker too, Albrecht. Albrecht, the question I have for you, as you're hearing this, maybe you've heard this just talking to her the past year, but what was a big takeaway for you hearing her story?
Well, there's never just one. I mean, all right. First and foremost, who in the heck would have thought that biology has anything to do with the cooperative movement? She inspired me to be more of an advocate, specifically to reach out to congressmen and congresswomen in our state and advocate for some of the things that they are up against in bills that could hurt or help credit unions. These bills are being signed and passed into acts on a biannual basis. And so if we're not out in front of things like interchange income, who will be? Well, maybe the bank association who wants us to, get penalized for being a credit unions. And so the fact that she not only talks the talk, but walks the walk, the things that she admires about other leaders is something that she's also now doing as a leader, defines who she is and why it's so incredibly humbling. And I'm just honored to see that dude, there was 35 people nominated from the great state of Michigan.
Wow.
Or not 35 from Michigan, 35 people totally nominated. Of the people that were from Michigan, it was all credit unions, and then Ann Ditlow. So she specifically was called out as someone from the credit union movement that's really making great strides in this space. And so I'm just super proud of her.
Hearing her story and hearing you debrief it as well, I think one of the biggest takeaways was that she replicated what she respected. And one of the things she talked about often was when I went to the credit union movement, I started to connect what I do with why it matters. And it was because of my leadership, leading with purpose. And she said, all right, now that I'm becoming a leader, I want to replicate that because it was such a big deal for me, which then goes right into our ServiStar training. So the stuff she was talking about is in emerging leaders, our level 1 leadership development. She also went through some courses from Vertex, our level 2. And I loved hearing her talk about how managing former peers came to her at the perfect time. Sometimes, one of the stats we throw out is the average leader, it takes them 10 years before they go through formal leadership training. No, why? Take it before you're a leader. Get yourself prepared so you can manage these former peers before it's too late. Start off on the right foot. So leaders, if you're hearing me and you see a rockstar employee, put them through this so you can set them up for success like Ann. That was such a powerful moment to hear that came at the perfect time. And then also in addition to that, how these trainings, she remembered them and how they're applying now, a year later. Like this stuff stands the test of time. It really works. Not only does it really work, but it's backed by research, maybe not from biologists, but from academic level research with Filing Institute. So Albrecht, before we say goodbye, what's one more thing you want to leave the listener with?
The lifelong learner, the one who wants to be learned, is something that Ed Filene really ascribed to be. He didn't go to Harvard. He wanted to. He ended up running his dad's business with his brother, and he really strove to get educated and be a learned man. And so as a listener of the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, I want to applaud you for listening to this episode to add to your learning so that you can apply that to your credit union tomorrow. So thanks again for being a listener of the Credit Union Leadership Podcast.
So much so. Guys, this is the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, where we encourage current and aspiring leaders with real world credit union solutions. So guys, till next time, we'll see you.
Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, we want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to two options. You can submit a question written out through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes. Click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Vertex Live nationwide is one of the most popular leadership training that's come out of ServiStar Consulting in the last 4 years. The pandemic forced everyone to go live online, and we embrace the opportunity to take credit unions from around the nation and join their leaders into one 10-part series with a graduation at the end and a group project that takes these classroom leadership topics and turns them into real world competencies. You've heard me on the Credit Union Leadership Podcast talk about an investment in leadership as one that pays dividends in your others. And so many credit union leaders will benefit. Not only themselves, but their teams will benefit from being better strategic thinkers. Their teams will benefit from being better coaches. Their teams are going to benefit from being more effective delegators. And so topics like team building, employee motivation, don't let your team learn this by mistake. Give them that proactive leadership training that they need. Send them to Vertex Live nationwide, a cohort that runs twice per year here at ServiStar Consulting.